Hello, Scott here, Cowboy Counselor. Still working on the Scrap Dragon. And I don't even have my microphone on today because one, I don't want to walk all the way up to the house and get it, but I'm not really planning on doing a lot of talking for this video. I'm just going to kind of demonstrate some of the things that I've been doing. So let's take a look at what has progressed on to. So after I quit filming the other day, I went ahead and cleaned up some of it with a grinder. I added toes onto it. These are actually small horseshoe nails, probably 4s or 4.5. So I probably used them on race horses when I was still a farrier. This is what the head has progressed onto, and what we need to do now is I want to add some wings. So I have some round stock cut over here, and I want him to come out. I'm not really even going to draw this out. I'm just envisioning it in my head. I want him to come out and angle forward to look like it's going to have flapping wings on it when I add the copper to that. So what I found in my scrap pile was this piece of round stock. Don't know what I originally had it for, but what I've done is I've laid it on the anvil until I hit a balance point to mark halfway, and I've marked it with my hammer. I could probably just go ahead and cut that cold on a Hardy. Hopefully you can see that. Looks like you can. Let's see if it'll go through cold. Well, a little tougher than I thought it'd be, but now we have 2 equal pieces, same length, and we're gonna heat these, bend them, and add them onto wings for the wings. Start those to heating. Trying to get an angle on this, so it looks like it has some light to it. Okay, let's bend these claws a little bit, whatever you call them. You can do more after we put the copper on. There we go. Kind of give it a realistic type effect. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll do the other side. One of my big struggles is I have so much fun working on these. I'll get to flying along and I'll work too fast, and I'm trying not to do that. Even though it's just a sculpture that'll probably sit in a garden or front doorstep, I still want reasonably good welds on it that'll hold up so they don't break. Right now I'm using my wire feed welder on this small stuff because obviously the 220 arc welder wouldn't work. Starting to get a bit of a drag in there. I'm gonna bend these claws a little bit just so we can get an idea. what that's going to look like. Yeah, something about like that. Spread out a little bit more for dramatic effect. I usually clip the ends of these horseshoe nails because they are needle sharp. And I guess I always figure it'd be less likely to cut a kid or something, although there's so many sharp edges on these sculptures, they're probably not what you would call kid friendly. There we go. Okay, now I have my structure on that I can start thinking about how I'm gonna do these wings. I'm having a bit of a hard time envisioning it, but at least this guy looks like he's got some character to him. This is a piece of scrap copper that I got a heck of a deal on a lot of this stuff. This has already been heated, and that's to soften it up. So with copper, if it's sheeting, old roofing, flashing material, which is what this is, all you need to do is heat it one time, probably in the forge, and get it to change color. And from that point on, it'll be pretty malleable. So I'm gonna take this piece and hammer it flat, but it looks like I have 2 wings in here that I can use. This bracelet that I'm wearing, incidentally, is hammered copper. That's out of copper pipe. Made the same way, heated, softened, and then hammered out, and then tooled. Okay, I'm just holding my copper up to that wing now and just kind of getting an idea. I marked it out with white chalk. You can see that. And I'm gonna go cut it with a pair of tin snips now, and then maybe cut the other side to somewhat match that. Okay, I've got both of my wings cut out, and this is a gapping block. I've been using it to cut kindling on too for my coal forge. But what we use this is for shaping soft metals like copper. And copper, as you hammer it, and I'm using a rawhide mallet, copper, as you hammer it, it goes back to being harder again. So I want a little bit of hardness back in these wings, just so they're not too floppy. So I'm just going to use the rounded edges of this stump to kind of tap it into the shape I want, but kind of give it that hammered copper type look to it as well. I use this gapping block to make some copper bowls that I've done, fish sculptures that I do. I've got a lot of fish sculptures. So that kind of gives that a nice, a little bit more of a rounded type effect to it. Okay, I'm liking the looks of what I've got going on here. I'm just kind of holding that wing on. And I think I'll just wait until I get done with it and then clean that up with a wire brush. Once again, I'm getting into a hurry, and now I'm kind of excited about using the acetylene to braze that on there and see what it's going to look like, but that gives an idea of the wing. Okay, I've got the acetylene out now, and I've got my bottles cracked open. I think I'm just going to try to tack one of these wings on. This is brazing rod, brass brazing rod. I use it a lot on copper. I'm not a great brazier. I usually have pretty good luck doing copper to steel. I do a lot of copper sculpture where I'm brazing copper to copper, and that gets a little bit tricky for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and crack this and light it up. Gonna get that adjusted out where we don't have any smoke. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Try that again. Shut it off. Okay. Copper's kind of bending away from the steel just because of the heat. If I get that much hotter, it's going to melt the copper. I'm just going to try to lay a little bit in there. Okay, I got a little bit of a stick right there I can see. I'm going to go ahead and do another spot up here. One of the things I love about these sculptures is it tests many different disciplines of the metalworking. So it's forging, it's arc welding, it's MIG welding, it's acetylene. I guess that's pretty much it. Okay. Braze is melding down in there. Alright. I think that is spotted on. It looks like it. Okay. Guess we'll know when we pop this vice grip off. Okay. Okay, I've got one wing brazed on now. As long as I've got my equipment all turned on, I'm gonna go ahead and braze on that other side too. This is what our Dragon has progressed on to now. The wings are brazed on. The head is on there. We've got toes that we put on. There's probably a few more things I could weld onto it, but the big thing now is just going to be clean up. I need to polish those wings up with a wire brush. I might even use my torch to burn some of that stuff off, clean it up, and a little bit of steel wool. And once again, a scrap dragon. I started making these about 30 years ago. We have various snakes and gargoyles and dragons, and the first ones were pretty crude. I like a little bit more form and function to my sculptures now, to where when you look at it, it has expression. It looks alive. So I'll take a picture of this when I get it all done and maybe tack it on to the end of this video. But this is pretty much the finished product, I think. Hey, so the whole idea of working on stuff like this is, I'll pick this up so we can see it. My buddy now, he can ride on my shoulder. Oh, that was hot. I burned myself in the ear for the first time in a long time. The mental health aspect of sculpture for me is I love pouring myself into these. And I said one of my struggles is I get so excited about these builds and things that I'm making that I'll tend to work too fast. And I caution myself to slow down and just really enjoy that process, the mindfulness of it. I make a lot of useful objects. I make a lot of knives. I make a lot of tomahawks. I do a fair amount of welding of usable and structural type items. So these are just for fun. This is pure art. They sit on the garden gate. People take them, put them on the front porch. But I really enjoy doing these. So very much a mindful project, a coping skill for me, just to dive into a sculpture every now and then and turn it out. All right, once again, thank you. And if you like this, hit like and subscribe. If you missed part 1 and 2 of the Scrap Dragon, you can go back and just look at what I started with and where some of these materials came from. And other than that, have a great day. Over and out.